And good afternoon. I'm Christine Dean, your DFW Networking Diva, connecting you to who you want to know. We're all about entrepreneurship. We're about mindset. We're about knowing who you need to know. It's about business. It's about connections, organizations. We are just having fun with everything along that. And I had an opportunity to have a conversation with J.R. Smith from the Veterans Ranch, and he said, you know what? You really need to meet my buddy Chad. He said, there's no one else. You just need to talk to Chad. You'll understand once you talk to him. And I said, you know what? Let me find out a little bit more. And I got to tell you, our guest today, he is something else. And I can't wait to share him with you. So I'm just going to bring him in and say, hey, Chad.
Well, hello.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Well, it's you come across people in your life that are there for a reason. And I think you are here as a source of inspiration. And really, we need that. We need more inspiration in our lives.
Yeah.
Your story is just so unique, and it really it touches the heart. It just makes us say, okay, if Chad can do it, we can do what's in our way, right? Things that we need to
Yeah.
work through, obstacles, right? And Chad, I don't think everybody knows your story, but they should.
Yeah.
And I would love if you'd be willing to share your story with
Of
us.
course, of course. So again, thank you for having me. It's a blessing. We connected, when we got to talk, and it was amazing. So I'm a Virginia resident. I was born and raised in the Shenandoah Valley, and my mother was a drug addict. She struggled greatly before I was ever born, and when I was born, I don't know if it was due to the drug use, but I was born with Erb's palsy and a learning disability. So the entire left side of my body wasn't working. She had to work with me to regain that movement, which she did, and I thank God that she did. But then she went right back to the drugs, and it just got worse and worse and worse. Fast forward a few years, she became so strung out on the drugs that she allowed the drug dealers that she was buying these drugs from come and live in our home. They buried the drugs in our backyard. It was just a really bad situation. I wasn't going to school. I didn't have a dad in the picture. I wasn't eating right. I had anemia. It was bad. I was, a rail. And at 14, law enforcement agencies, federal and state, raided my home. They sent my mom to federal prison, and they sent me to stay with family in Oklahoma. And it was supposed to be a good situation for a kid that just had a really rough upbringing, right? But it wasn't that at all. The family members that I stayed with, they didn't see me as a blessing, more of a burden and a whipping post. They would put me in the corner like I was 5 and make me stand there until it was time for bed. I would have to eat there, do my homework there. They would physically beat me until I was black and blue and bleeding. They restricted my life in a lot of different ways. And so in about a year and a half into that, I couldn't take it anymore, and I ran away. I ran away from Oklahoma all the way back to Virginia. I was a fairly resourceful kid. When I got back, I ended up getting arrested actually. And even though the state gave me back to my family in Virginia, the damage had really been done to me, and I didn't believe in myself. I was angry. I was making a lot of bad decisions from that point forward, and all I associated myself with was that hurt, the anger, the violence that I had seen. And then I met this young lady in school, and she changed my world because she believed in me. We ended up getting married and having 2 children. And I remember staring at our place. We were living in this low income house or apartment. It was not a good situation. And I said to myself, my kids are going to grow up just like I did if I don't do something. But I had dropped out of high school. I didn't have a lot going for me. So I decided, hey, I'm going to follow in my grandfather's footsteps. I'm going to join the military. So I did. I joined the U.S. Army, and it was the best decision I think I had ever made in my life. It wasn't perfect in the beginning because I didn't have, discipline. I didn't have direction. But once I decided like this was where I was, like I had to do this, I fell in love with it. I just consumed everything military, right? And I became the soldier. I went to all the schools. I ended up becoming a sniper in the military. I then was towards the end of my career, I was able to become an instructor for combat applications. I taught all four branches of the military. My program was branched out to the civilian sector. I taught the FBI, U.S. Marshals, who were probably my favorite to teach, um, DEA, SWAT teams from various counties. I mean, you name it. I had people flying in just to train with me. And the funny thing is that I was a kid with special needs, right? Like I had a learning disability. I didn't believe in myself. And then I took a complete 180 and became somebody where people were flying in just to be instructed from. But things continued to kind of twist and turn in my life. My daughter ended up having a stroke when I was stationed in Germany, and she almost lost her life. The doctors told us that she would never walk, talk, or eat ever again. And I just couldn't accept those answers. I remember sitting with her, and my wife actually gave birth while my daughter was in ICU with our third child. It was just a chaotic moment. And I remember the family having to split up because of the newborn. And I got sent to Walter Reed with my daughter, and my wife and my newborn had to stay in Germany. And I was sitting in that room with my daughter, and I just said, "Hey, we're going to fight. I don't know how this thing's going to turn out, but we're going to fight." And, the doctors would come in 4 or 5 times a day telling us everything that she wasn't going to do. And I didn't allow her to listen to it. And it's really a testament of the mindset, right? And the power of the mind, because in 5 months, she took her first steps. She was able to eat on her own, and she was talking. It was a miracle. And, I took that momentum. She's kind of my inspiration. So I went through my career, and I ended up getting hurt in Iraq. I went off of a roof, landed head first, and was injured. I had a whole bunch of surgeries. And it was kind of like a snowball effect with my injuries. And at 10 years, the military told me I had to retire. I didn't want to, but they said, "Hey, this is what's, best for us, I guess." And when I got out, I went through a really dark time because I didn't know my place in the world. Uh, I can't really explain it, but it was like all of my demons, all of the stuff that I had been through from when I was a child, all the way up till, my combat, and it just all swarmed in on me. I couldn't go to sleep. I was having nightmares, maybe going to sleep maybe an hour, 2 hours a night. So I started drinking pretty heavily, and I didn't really think about how my mom was an addict at this time. And so what started, as something to help me go to sleep ended up quickly being something I was addicted to. And I was doing, I would drink a fifth of whiskey a day, and that would be on a bad day. On a good day, I try to get in more. So it was pretty bad. So I started riding motorcycles to combat my mindset because I was losing my relationship with my wife and my kids. You have to understand, my wife and I have been together for 22 years, something like that, maybe longer than that. We've been married 19. We've been together since we were in high school. And so I was losing my best friend. I had to do something. So I started riding these motorcycles, and everything was going great. And I got out of the military in 2015. So 3 years later, in 2018, I'm riding my motorcycle. I'm taking a left turn, and this 18-year-old kid on his phone, not paying attention, he blows a red light, and he plows into me, basically T-bones me at 45 miles an hour, and I fly into a guardrail. Somehow I survived, right? No one thought I was going to, but I did. But on top of all the injuries I already had, I was really banged up now. And I had this severe fear of intersections, being in a car, traffic, the whole 9 yard was really freaking me out. And I knew I had to face this fear, right? Like I had to face it. So I decided to buy another motorcycle and get on it. And in 2020, I'm riding my motorcycle again, but this time with 5 other people. I don't know how you don't hear 5 Harley Davidsons. If you've never heard of Harley Davidson, they're loud, right? So 5 of them, how you don't hear it is beyond me. And I was in the front of the pack, and this minivan, not paying attention, swerves at 65 miles an hour into my lane. And he hits me so hard that my bike went into the Jersey barrier. It was a concrete Jersey barrier, and it like was implanted into the Jersey barrier. It never fell back down. And I went flying into a construction zone where they were widening I-95. On the way to the first hospital, I flatlined. They revived me. They realized that the injuries were so severe that I needed to go to a trauma center in Richmond, Virginia. So they medevac me to Richmond. I had this emergency surgery, and they realized inside the surgery that I needed another surgery because my injuries were even worse than what the MRI had shown. In between that surgery, I flatlined again. Ended up in ICU for 7 days, the hospital for 14, and it was COVID during that time. So my wife, my kids couldn't see me. My phone was on the bike. It was destroyed. I had nothing in that room but pain and reruns, right? And it was the best thing in the world for me because I had to face myself. I had to look the man in the mirror, and I had to skull drag those demons that were, terrorizing me, that I was trying to run from. And it was, again, the best thing that I think could have ever happened to me, because I left that hospital changed, man. I was just different. I was completely different. If you have ever read any of Napoleon Hill's work, he talks about, hypnotic rhythm and how it takes a very impactful incident to kind of get you to go the other way. And this wreck did that for me. It helped me take a 180. And I found out that, I was going down some bad paths, and I started fixing myself. I started chasing personal development, like with like a tenacious spirit, right? Like I was just guzzling in all the information I could. It helped that I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything, right? So I started journaling. I started really focusing on fixing me. And as in that process, I realized that my whole purpose in life was to help other people. I had been through all of these things to inspire and to guide and to try to be a light for other people. And so I wanted to be a product of the product before I stepped out and offered my services. So that's what I did. I spent months and months and months fixing myself. And, now that's where I'm at now. Is I coach, I speak, and I just try to make as much of a difference in people's lives as I possibly can. So.
Wow. Where to even start with that? You've been through so much that most of us couldn't even wrap our minds around it, right? Every step, talk about a challenge everywhere you went.
Yeah.
Just wow, Chad.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story with us, because it's so beyond anything most of us would ever deal with.
Yeah.
And we look at our problems nowadays, and a lot of times we think, oh, this is so overwhelming. And when you think about in the big picture of things, not quite as overwhelming as a lot of the things we could be going through, right?
Yeah. But I tell everybody else, what's hard for me might be easy for you, right? And vice versa. So, what I realize is, if you look at the human brain, trauma is trauma to the human brain. Whether that happened, like, let's say in overseas, we go into combat and we receive this, PTSD and this trauma from being in combat. It's no different than a hard situation in New York City to that person, right? The brain doesn't see it any differently. So, hard is hard, in my opinion, but we're built for it. Whatever we're facing, whatever life is throwing, in our path, it's because it's there for a reason. It's there for us, not against us, right? And when we shift our perspective, the whole thing changes, and you begin to see that there's value in it. Like, I wouldn't be able to help people if I hadn't have gone through all the things that I've been through. So really, all of these things have helped me not really hurt me in the long run. In the moment, you don't always see it, to
Right.
your point, right? In the moment, it's like, oh my God, I didn't even mention I have two autistic children, right? And that was another thing, but it helped me be patient. It helped me become, the person that you're talking to today. So more good came out of it than bad, if that makes sense.
The broken path to get where you are right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
it's the journey, right? We have a choice when we face things in life. Is are we going to let our attitude dictate what's going on? Or are we going to have a good attitude or a bad attitude? We don't always get to choose what happens to us, but we get to choose our mindset and what we want to do with it.
yes. Yes. Positive mental attitude all day, every day. We, you make our we look for the circumstances you want, and if you can't find them, then make it your own. Don't settle for something that you don't want. And people can say that, oh, why, my circumstances would change them. I did. I changed. I was not always around the best people. I cut them off. I Look, you have to protect your energy. You have to protect yourself. And when you become your number one fan, and it's not in an arrogant way, right? It's really not, because I love helping people. But how can I help somebody if I'm a wreck? How can
Right.
I guide somebody through a dark place if I'm in the dark place? I can't, right? So when you change and shift your perspective of why you're doing what you're doing it for the better, right? You're doing it so that you can really make an impact in this world. But to your point, our mindset is important, and we can practice it, right? Perspective is everything. How we see it. My mentor, Bob Proctor, says, if the more you move your angles, the more the picture changes, right? So if you don't like what you're seeing, change the perspective, change your angle. It's up to us.
Right. And I think a lot of people get lost in that dark space. And you mentioned the PTSD and the trauma and whatever your trauma is, it's your trauma.
Yeah.
Right. And you get to decide how you want to handle that. Are you going to let that trauma own you, define you, and be who you are and impact everything in your life? Or are you going to work with it, learn what you want to learn out of it, and then take it and run? Right.
Yeah.
Run with it and use it for good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, life's hard, right? It's not going to stop.
Right.
I mean, I think that's what I had to learn is, well, one, that everything look, you can only control so much. I can control me, and that's really about it. So if you're holding on to things that other people did, and look, why are you giving them power? That's all you're doing. You're giving these circumstances, you're giving these people, you're giving whatever's happened to you power over you. And what's happening? The same exact miserable process is taking place day in and day out. And you're worth more than that, right? So when we say, no, I'm not allowing this to control me, I'm going to define my circumstances, I'm going to define who I am, then we take that power back. And I call it extreme ownership, right? And a lot of people don't like it, but it's what has to happen. And when they really again, perspective, when you shift your perspective and you see that it's really a power move for you, it's not a weak move, right? When we do this, it gives us so much power over our right now, and that in return gives us a better tomorrow, instead of being chained to things that just swallow our day and fill us full of misery. And that's what it is
Right.
misery. I meet so many people that are just miserable. They are miserable,
Right.
and they don't want to allow. But here's the other thing is, people are comfortable in their misery, and no one wants me to ever say it, but I like to say it because it's true,
Mhm.
because I know it, because I was there. It was comfortable. It was familiar. That pain, the
Mhm.
people that you don't like, the people that annoy you, your family members that are always negative and always telling you that you can't do something, all of that is familiar. You're used to it. It's scary to step out and do the thing that you say that you want to do. That's scary, right? And
Mhm.
that scariness sometimes halts us in our track, and then we go back to the very same thing that we say that we don't like because it's familiar.
Right. We fall right back into those old patterns. And like you said, there's a difference between saying that's what I want and am I willing to take the action necessary to get there?
Yes.
Because it's not familiar. It is scary. And we make a lot of our own misery.
Mm-hmm. Oh my
We
God.
really do. One of my favorites is the Serenity Prayer,
Oh
right?
yeah, I love
You
it.
know,
Yeah.
I love the Serenity Prayer. People are like, "Oh, are you an alcoholic?" I mean, why else would you know that? And it's like, no, oh my goodness, this should apply to everybody at
Yeah.
all times. It has nothing to do with alcohol, no alcohol, drugs, what has nothing to do with it. Serenity Prayer is all about knowing what you can control and what you can't.
Right. I- we have, look, and that's why I always talk about focus on yourself and what you can
Mhm.
do, because you're right. This is what we can control. What I think, what I do, and to go to your point, if we want to change our actions, you got to change your mindset,
Mhm.
and because that's our mind control. Our body is just an instrument of our mind, right? And so I could go on and on and on, but Bob Proctor made it a little. I learned it from him, but he learned it from other people. It's like a stick figure, right? And you
Mhm.
have the conscious and the subconscious, and our subconscious really controls what we do. All right.
Mhm.
You think about the fight or flight theory, right? When something crazy happens, how do you react, right? That's your subconscious telling you exactly what you're going to do, and then you react and you do it. Most of us are reacting in life rather than responding. And the only way to shift that to a respond instead of react type flow is to work on our subconscious, work on our mindset, begin to fill it with positive things. And it takes work, right? And, there's two questions when you make a goal, and that is, am I able? And yes, you are, because there's tons of potential in all of us. And then, am I, like, to your point, am I willing to pay the price for whatever this costs? Am I willing to do what it takes? And that question, no one can answer but ourselves, right? Are you
Mhm.
going to do what it takes? And a lot of people are jealous of successful individuals, but you shouldn't be. They were willing to do what it took to get to wherever they are, and we have that same potential. There are people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all different countries that are successful, making tons of money, having good relationships with their spouses and their kids, and we can have it too. But we have to be willing to do the work. Yes,
Absolutely. Is
yes,
that what you're looking at?
yes. That is it. Yes,
Right?
because
A
we have.
visual that really shows us, right? The conscious mind up here, this is what we're aware of.
Yeah.
But
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Because look, oh man, I could go on and on for this, but all the conscious mind is the information, right? Like when you read a book, right, it goes into the conscious mind. The subconscious mind is like our emotions, right? So in order for our body to, kind of change the vibration, we have to become emotionally attached to whatever we're getting. So our dreams, right? Like people stop dreaming. And when we were kids, we would dream and we would play. I remember I would pretend like I was a soldier and I was my grandfather in World War II, and I would put on his jacket, and I was in my grandmother's ditch doing crazy stuff as a kid. And I had this crazy imagination. We get older and we are told as we get older to stop imagining, stop daydreaming, stop doing this, stop doing that. And it kills our imagination, but we need that imagination to begin to have that emotional attachment to what we want in our life. We begin to see it, we get that emotional attachment, it comes into our subconscious mind, and then our body begins to react to that, and then the universe ends up attracting those things in our lives, right? And I mean, that's in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it, but in a nutshell, that's what takes place. And but it does take work. Like I had a really messed up mind. Uh, I mean, I came from a very negative environment where everything was you can't. Why are you doing that? You're
Mhm.
stupid. So for me, I had to do double work to try to fix my
Mhm.
mind. But that was my fight, and that was my journey. As you were saying earlier, we all have our specific journey.
Mhm.
Others might not have to do as much work to get their mind in that place, but you still have to do whatever that takes to get you there so you can have the life that you want.
Absolutely right. And like you mentioned, the journey and how we get there, right? And some of us were brought up with sunshine and rainbows and,
Yeah.
blessed to be in a family that was supportive and others weren't,
Yeah.
right? So you had that extra step that you need to work your way through because what we're told, right, when we're growing up is really implanted in who we are and how we
Yes.
define ourselves,
Yes.
right? So then you have to stop and ask yourself, who do I want to define me?
Right.
Someone from my past that really didn't appreciate me for who I am or who I am today,
Yes.
right? You
Yeah.
got to fight those demons
Yeah.
because we're not going to let those people dictate who we are right now. But you got to
Exactly.
make that step and that effort, right?
Exactly. And I mean, you think about it, it travels into a lot of different things as we get older, in business, right? People that are successful in business, it's just a paradigm shift, right? They believe they can do certain things, and so that ends up becoming their action, and they begin to attract those opportunities in their life to execute. Whereas other people, they fall back to those old paradigms where they can't, I'm not smart enough, or the paradigm of I'm not willing to do the studying or the work or the research or whatever it takes to be successful in the field that you're in. So it really it translates to every single aspect of our life, our relationships with our spouses. You know, we have exactly what we think we can have,
Mm.
and that's the truth, right? Um, and that is a scary but yet freeing thing at the same time, because if you shift what you think you can have more.
Right. And I think you and I work a lot with that concept. I'm very hands-on and you do so much with the mindset, which I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Because I know when I work with organizations, I always say I like working with mission-driven organizations and individuals. And so that's your nonprofits and those that are trying to do good in the world. If you're doing good, I want to hear about, which is why I
Yeah.
love you, Chad.
Yes.
The doing good thing, right? And
Yeah.
so a lot of times it's a matter of what can you imagine? Right? Where are your possibilities? And so when I talk to somebody, it's like, okay, well, this is where you are now. What does success look like to you?
Right.
And they haven't even comprehended what those possibilities are and how big they can get and how big they can go. And you can do great on small scale, but you can do even better on a big scale, right? Why not help more people?
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about. It's getting people to think, I can.
Yeah, and they can. That's the thing. They can. I'm gonna say this, and a lot of people might disagree, but there are no limits. The only limits that exist are the ones that we create for ourselves. You talk about goals. I love goals, right? And Bob Proctor talks about, because he's kind of the first guy when I was searching for information to change my mindset. I stumbled on Bob Proctor, so I ended up becoming a consultant through his program and everything, because he impacted my life so very much. But he talks about A, B, and C type goals, right? And C type goals are those like those things that we don't like, they're imaginary, like fantasies, right? That we
Mhm.
dream about. Like you said, like why? Like I have a dream of reaching 100 million people. 100 million. That's like I say that to some people, and they're like, they look at me like with this like
Like,
weird,
why would you do
like
that?
dude, like what are you talking? Like get real, right? And that's the thing is I want my goals to not only scare me but make others look at me crazy, right?
Mhm.
Because A type goals are the things that we know we can get, right? For instance, I know I can get a new car and rent it out or lease it out for 2 years and get another one. And I've done that before. So I know I can do that.
Mhm.
B type goals are the goals that we plan out. And if this goes right and that goes right, and we got it like this whole like design of, the path. And if all of it goes right, I will get this. It will happen for me. C type goals, you step into it and you have no idea how you're going to do it. You have no clue. And those are the best type of goals to set, right? Because now you really have to step out and make it happen for yourself. You really have to bet on yourself. You have to do the work. There's a lot of things that go into making this happen. And that dedication level rises and it really stretches you. And that's what goals really do. They're there to stretch you, it's not so much about the byproduct. The byproduct is the money or the car or the whatever it is, right? The real goal, the real purpose of a goal is to stretch you, right? To make you stronger and better. That is what a goal is supposed to do. So that's my spiel.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I remember we had a speaker at the DFW Veterans Chamber. On the last Friday of the month, we always have a speaker that comes in, does some kind of entrepreneurial workshop. And so they have these little nuggets that they shared. And I'd never heard it before, but they called it a BHAG. And I'm like, BHAG? What the heck is a BHAG? Big, hairy goals, right? Audacious goals, big, hairy, audacious goals. I'm like, okay, well, that's one way to phrase it. I hadn't thought of, but it makes sense, right? If your big, scary goal isn't big enough to scare you, then it's not big enough.
Yes. And, we can go even slightly deeper than that. And, I think the first, for me, the order goes purpose, vision, goals. That without purpose, and for me, the purpose is why not goals. All right, let me start where I'm supposed to. Purpose. Our purpose. Why are you here? Right? For me, I want to change the world, and I want people to realize that there's a legend on the inside of them. And I want them to walk in that. That is, for me, that is my purpose, right? Your vision, people get vision and purpose confused. It's not the same thing.
Right.
Vision is your strategy. It's your overall strategy. And what people don't understand is strategy can change, right? But before I got all these injuries and, I got all this fake stuff in my body. So I don't do working out and jujitsu, but I used to train fighters. I had a Golden Glove boxer I trained, and I trained jujitsu, but I also learned jujitsu, right? I was also a student of what I was learning. And one day we had this instructor come in, and he was teaching us this flow. And as the attack failed, he was teaching us to flow to a different move, to a different move, to a different move, right? And he said something that stuck with me and this has been, 15 years since I've trained with this man. And he said, flow like water. And and then he explained how so many people, they go one way, and the door it's not like a door that is just there for you to shove it a little bit and then it opens. It's like a gate that's locked, that's still, it's not meant to be opened, right? But we feel like that was the plan, and we are just all of our energy, right? And we're pounding through that. And what ends up happening is we lose our energy, right? We lose our motivation. And then what we're attacking ends up attacking us and beating us, right? And we lose the fight. Whereas, have you ever, the special thing about a shark is that it never stops moving, right? It's in constant motion. So with this, okay, you're going, oh, I hit the wall. It's not working out so well. But with every closed door, another door opens. So you just flow to the next opportunity, right? And so the vision, I say all of that to say that the vision shifts sometimes because what we think is going to work out, but then there's a detour. There's things that happen along the way, and we got to shift a little bit, right? And then goals are like our mile markers, right? Like our gas station stops, right? I want to get here, right? Oh yeah, I'm on my way, right? And so we can celebrate those, and those shift, and those you're gonna kick your goalpost out a little farther as you move towards your purpose. But people need to get purpose first, and I feel like that alone is a big problem because people overcomplicate it, right? I always tell people, what do you like? What do you like? Go do what you like. Why are you not doing what you like? Well, I don't have the money. I don't have this. It'll come. Just start, right? Look, I started a podcast and I was scared I dragged my feet for a year, but I knew I needed to start a podcast, right? I knew I needed to get my voice out. And I needed to create a stage for myself. Just start. If everything falls in place, the vision is going to come, right? The pieces of the pie are going to, start to fall in. The goals, you're going to start seeing, okay, I need to do this. That's going to be a good short-term goal. That's going to be a good long-term goal. That's going to get me to fulfill my strategy, to fulfill my purpose. all that. But your purpose has to be what you like, man. You got to start doing what you like. I mean, I don't understand why people are overcomplicating it, right? My purpose
Mhm.
is to do X, Y, and Z because 10 years ago, 5 people told me that I was good at this. Not because you want to do it.
Right.
I don't understand, right? So, when it comes to our purpose, don't overcomplicate it, right? Follow your passion. Look, I believe that we all have gifts. Like I have a gift
Mhm.
of apparently talking because I'm talking right now like crazy, uh, but I do. I have a gift that even though I don't like talking and I'm an introvert, I can get up on a stage and I can ramble and talk, and I have that gift, right?
Mhm.
Other people have a gift to work on things. Maybe you belong in a mechanic shop to own your own shop and to help people in that way, right? There's
Mhm.
always different things that we have gifts. So put your gifts with what you love to do and go do it.
Right. And that's a hard part, right? A lot of people don't know what their purpose is. And we're brought up in a society where, okay, we go to school, we get a career, we go in, we clock out, right? And the drone mentality,
Yeah,
right? And they don't necessarily think about what is my goal? What is my purpose? What brings me joy? What kind of change do I want to make in the world? Rather than complaining about how I don't like things, what am I willing to do to make that effort towards that change, whether it's my life, the society, the world, whatever it is that, how can I have an impact? And people forget they have an impact. They have that
right.
opportunity and they don't even know what their purpose is. And the idea of a purpose driven life, right? That for me, I call it mission driven, whether
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
religion or not religion, right?
yeah,
Do you have a goal, right? Do you have a purpose that then you can turn into your vision, your action
yeah,
steps, your goals? And
yeah,
a lot of people don't.
yeah. And
It's
that's why they're miserable. I, you're lost without goals. So that means that if you have no purpose, my God, you know what I mean? Where are
Where's your
you?
reason to wake up in the morning?
You
Where's your
don't have
reason
one.
to do good? Where's your reason to interact with people? If you have no purpose, you're just kind of meandering through life.
Yep.
So would you say, Chad, that's one of the areas that you really like to focus on is helping people figure out their purpose?
Oh God, yeah. That is my thing, right? That and helping them attain the goals that they are set, right? Like whatever that is. And if they've plateaued, I like to help them reach a little higher. And I call it human potential, right? I'm a
Yeah.
human potential coach, right? Because I believe that there's a deep reservoir of potential in all of us, right? And
Mhm.
we limit ourselves when we shouldn't. So I'm here to take the limits off and help people, um, follow the purpose and do great things.
And really, to me, that's what it's all about. We have so much inside of us that needs to be unlocked,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of times, like you said, that comfort zone, we're here
Mm.
taking that step forward. That's fear, that's stepping out of our comfort zone. I have a coffee mug that's one of my favorites. It said life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
It does.
And I drink out of that my tea and I just smile every time I look at it because great things don't happen in your comfort zone.
Yeah. No. 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 Man, I could talk for an hour on that one, but yeah, we're made to our mind was made to see all the bad things, right, to protect us, right, and to keep us safe. And so it hesitates to allow us to jump out into those uncomfortable things. But that is, like you said, where the success is. That is where, I mean, you think about if you have a spouse, when you first tried to date her or ask her out, that was crazy, right? You were nervous, your hands were sweating, you were fumbling over your words in your head, and you go to speak and you blurt out things that didn't make sense at first. You're like, oh my God, I'm ruining this. And all of that uncomfort paid off when she said yes to a date or, whatever. And you ended up getting married. All of these things are uncomfortable, but through that uncomfort came something really, really amazing. Right. And so it's no different with our purpose. It's no different with our lives. I always tell people to get comfortable being uncomfortable. If
That's
you're
so
not
true.
uncomfortable, you're in a bad, bad place.
Right? You're not learning, you're not growing, you're not pushing yourself, and you're not living to your true potential.
No. No.
You know, we were intended to do more than get up, go to work, clock in, clock out, come home, watch TV, and fall asleep. If that's what your life revolves around, you need a purpose.
Yeah, badly. I mean, the world doesn't need more robots and more conformity. We need individuals to be themselves. We were all made unique, and yet so many of us are just trying to be like the next person because we are not confident enough in ourselves, right? And when you have a purpose, you start to become confident in who you are, why you're on this earth, why you do what you do, why you like what you like. It all makes sense because you have purpose, right?
Right.
But when you lack that purpose, man, you fall for everything. You're trying to be like everybody else. You're going after what everybody else tells you, and you end up with a handful of nothing, right? Miserable, sad. And then what's really, really horrible is that people think they have time, right? And I always try to give a wake-up call to everybody that I talk to. When I got hit, I flatlined twice. No one warned me, right, that I was going to get hit by a car. Okay. And I'm telling you, every doctor was surprised that I made it. Okay. Every single surgeon, every single doctor I've talked to is like, holy, you're not supposed to be here. We never know when that's going to happen. I had a buddy commit suicide in the hospital parking lot. He broke the day before. We were fine. We're talking. Everything was good. And then boom, right? And so you never know when that last day comes, or you get so lazy and lethargic following what everybody else does that sooner or later you become 80, 85, 90, whatever age that is, and you look back with nothing but regret, wishing that you could do it all over again, and you can't. I think that's worse than getting hit by the car.
Right.
Okay. You know,
Yep.
because you have to look at your family. Oh, I should have taught you this. I should have done this with you. I should have done that. I wanted to take you to Disney World, but I never did anything to make enough money to take you there. Right. Like I had all these great ideas. You know how many people I've talked to that are like in their 70s? Oh man, you know what? I came up with that before this guy patented. I mean, I've talked to people that came up with things that are now patented. And he's like, man, I should have patented it. I should have done this. And I'm like,
Right. Never took the initiative to
good
do the
God.
things that are important, right? When you're talking about your purpose, what are your values? What's important to you? And are you doing things to make that happen? Right. And a lot of times people don't, it's like saying, oh, I'm going to wait until I retire and then.
Yeah.
And how many times do we see people retire and a few years later they pass away?
Right.
Don't wait
Yeah.
for
Well,
that thing that brings you purpose, that thing that brings you joy, that thing, that change that you want to make in the world. Don't wait for it.
yeah.
Do it now.
When everyone says, well, when I retire or when I get enough money or when, my kid gets this age, or that never happens. And what ends up happening is the goal fades away. And so when you do retire, you don't do it, right? Like the goal is completely faded away. Act on it now. Keep that flame alive, right? Put your talents and your desires and your passions to use, and do something that's going to make you happy and also make you money. I mean, I don't understand why people are not doing that more, right? We have so much potential, and it's not all about money. It's about, but money's a vehicle. So if you want to change the world, you have to have money, right? If you want to, go on vacations around the world, you got to have something to get you there, right? It's not for free. So, these things are needed, right? But even if you take the money piece out, right?
Well,
Don't
money
you want to
buys
build?
opportunities,
Yeah,
right? It gives you opportunities to do things. You get to decide where you want to put that influence, right? Whether it's
right.
to your favorite charity or to building some relationships in your family or
Yeah.
whatever it is. But money gives you options.
Yes,
So,
it does.
like you said, it's a vehicle to get you where you want to go with today's society.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, but at the end of the day, wouldn't you want to be fulfilled every day? Like you said, waking up, feeling like, hey, I have a purpose. I'm not saying that every day is like, oh, right. I wake up at between 4 and 4:30 every morning. I don't always feel like doing it. Okay. But that's where that discipline comes in. And I do it because I know that that's what I'm supposed to do because I'm on a mission, right? I have purpose behind what I'm doing and behind my action, but I feel fulfilled, like I'm happy. And that is priceless. That really is to know that you're changing lives, to know that you're doing something that you enjoy on a daily basis. Come on, especially in a world where everybody's so angry and so miserable. I mean, you could honestly be a light to so many people just by living this way, right? Change so many lives.
Right, just by being an inspiration to others, which is why I wanted to bring you on the show today.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Look, at the end of the day, there's so much I could talk about, when it comes to being the best you and your mentality. But I do want to say this, like at the end of the day, it's on us. The problem is us and the solution is us.
Absolutely. I saw that you had the Legend of You podcast.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
that was the one that you mentioned. It was one of your goals, and then you said step off that cliff and just go for it. So you've got quite a few episodes listed on your website. Your website is mrtenacity.com. So Mr. MR, then TENACITY.com. And really, how did you pick that name?
My wife gave me the name. Because the doctors told me that I wouldn't walk for 18 months if I walked. So they doubted that I would even be able to walk without like assistance. And I was like, no, you're not giving me that sentence. So I did it in 5 months. I was walking without assistance, or no, with assistance in 5 months. And so I beat all the doctors, and she was like, my God, all right, Mr. Tenacity. And then she just kept calling me Mr. Tenacity, and it just stuck. And she was like, yo, you need to brand that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to brand it. So here we are,
Exactly. And it's true, right? Every step of your life, you had to have tenacity to overcome it and keep moving. Right. Yeah. So if they want to hear more about what you have to say, right, check out the website, mrtenacity.com. Go check out his podcast, right? I mean, podcast is going to be one of those things that you can keep listening to over and over again. And you may need to listen to it more than once in order to pick up all the concepts and hold it, think about it, and play with it in your mind and listen to it again, right? The Legend of You podcast is definitely worth checking out. And if they wanted you to come out and speak, is that an opportunity, something that you could do?
Oh yeah, I do. I do speaking engagements. I love it. And so, just reach out to me on my website. I'm pretty sure you can book me from the website, and you can also email me from there. I believe my work phone number is on there as well. So there's a few different ways to reach me. And if all of that fails, then go on Facebook, Chad Osinga on Facebook, and send me a message, and you can contact me there. I'm a easygoing guy, and I would love to help you. I'm here to serve and to help in whatever capacity I can.
Yeah. Now, if there's people out there going, you know what, I'm thinking I need a mindset coach. I need somebody to help me, kick out this negative attitude and help me realize my full potential. I wonder who they should contact, Chad.
Oh man, I think it's Mr. Tenacity.
I think so.
Yeah. I have a couple different programs. I do a free strategy call. So you can, and look, when it comes to the strategy call, what I always tell people is just book it, because I'm not a salesy kinds of guy, right? I'm going to tell you what the price is to actually work like all the time with me, right? But then if you do a free strategy call, you tell me what's going on, I'm going to give you value, right? And you're going to walk away with some solutions that you can apply to whatever's going on in your world, or resources if I don't know how to solve it, because can't solve everything, right? But I will at least point you in the direction to someone or something that can help you solve your problem.
Absolutely, Chad. And that's one of the things I appreciate. You have that big giving heart. You know, those of us that like to do, just let us help. And then you can take that and run with it and
Yeah.
do whatever you need to do. Or if you want to work with us, come work with us,
Yeah.
right? We have
Yeah.
options. We just want to see everybody live to their full potential.
That's it.
That's really what it's all about.
That's
And
it.
I see so much full potential and coming through you. And I know that you're going to be inspiring others to do it. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming in to chat with us today.
No, it was wonderful. Thank you. I had a great time.
Well, we'll have you back again, I'm sure, without a doubt. And I
Yeah.
love supporting our veteran community. So thank you for your service.
Thank you for thanking me. It was an honor to serve.
It is. My son's active duty Air Force, and so proud of my little booger.
Yeah.
All
No booger.
services. And since we're talking veteran anyway, of course, there's the DFW Veterans Chamber that meets on Friday mornings at 7:30 in the morning, and it's online. So we encourage everybody, veterans and non-veterans. So we'd love to have you come visit. Feel free to come
I
hang
will.
out with us and get to know our fun and excitement, and all the bonding within the veteran community is
Yeah.
fantastic.
I would love
And the
to.
the patriots like me.
Yeah.
I didn't serve, right? But I
Yeah.
love our veterans. I love supporting them.
Yeah.
So whatever I can do to help, please reach out anytime, Chad, and come hang out with us.
All right. I think I will.
All right. Thanks, Chad. Have
Yes.
a
Thank you.
fantastic day.